Is it just me? Or is there a recurring theme in all modern romance with the male love interest that is starting to get on my nerves? No, I'm not just talking about those cringy TikTokified, book-talkified tropes that I ranted about a lot in this video here. I'm talking about one really specific character trait that appears among all the male love interests in pretty much every modern contemporary romance that I've read lately. I couldn't even put my finger on what this thing was for the longest time, but I finally diagnosed it and I realized something. It's the same problem that we've had for many years with female characters, and now suddenly it's been transferred over to male characters. How could this have happened? I'll just come right out and say what it is. The perfect performative book boyfriend who is only allowed to be flawed in a nice way. Prepare for a rant with tea. See, I hold up a Jane Austen book because Jane Austen was a master, a genius of not doing this, and I'm going to explain why. So first we're going to diagnose this issue, this problem with male characters, then we're going to look at why we're doing this, and then we're going to look at what would Jane Austen do. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Abby, and I help writers make their stories matter and make their author dreams come true. And if that's something you're on a mission to do, you're gonna wanna subscribe to this channel. I would love to have you here in the community. So what do I mean by the perfect performative book boyfriend? I've noticed this trend. You guys can tell me if you have noticed this trend also. But I have noticed this trend in modern romance where the male love interest is perfectly behaved. He's constantly like bending over backwards for the female love interest. He's always doing sweet things for her, sacrificing for her, and he's basically just a total gem from beginning to end. You might say,
oh, well, but he's flawed. He has a flaw. See, he has this childhood wound and this conflict and this trauma.
But is it really a flaw? That's my question. I've noticed that oftentimes the flaw is something soft and sympathetic, like, I don't think I'm worthy of love, or I don't deserve her, she's too good for me. Meanwhile, I have been really impressed by the female characters in modern romances. I've been reading a lot of contemporary romance lately, and I've been actually really pleasantly surprised by how the female characters have so many layers, so much depth, so much good character change. They have conflict. They actually transform as a result of their journey, and that makes me so happy to see that. But when I look to the male character, it's a whole different story. His flaws are usually just self-esteem wounds, not actual behavioral problems. It's like these authors are terrified of giving him actual character flaws, like avoidance, cowardice, jealousy, deceit, greed, because then that would make him not book boyfriend material. So underneath all of this is like this underlying boiling question. Are we saying that men can only be lovable if they are like endlessly performative and bending over backwards to be like the model of perfect behavior with no flaws whatsoever? So that leads us to the big question. Why are writers doing this? I think personally part of this comes down to conformity. A lot of modern romance follows this pattern now, and we want our characters to be likable, right? Everybody wants their characters to be likable, especially the male love interest. We want all of our readers to fall in love with him. But in doing so, these writers have siphoned all the humanity out of their male characters and not allowed them to be actually flawed. And a lot of writers are afraid that if they let their male characters have behavioral problems and exhibit these flaws in their actions and make mistakes and get in trouble because of their behavior, that your readers will see that as red flags. So they play it safe. The guy can be sacrificial, insecure, or wounded, but he can't actually be selfish, avoidant, or wrong. No. He cannot be wrong, or else everyone will hate him, right? Wrong. We need those flaws in order for the character to experience real growth and change. And without those actual flaws showing up in their behavior and their decision making, we don't have a transformative arc for this character to go on. There's no internal progression for him. And all of this because so many writers are afraid of the character flaws being confused with endorsed behavior. Okay, your character can do something without you necessarily endorsing what they're doing. So what is wrong with this pattern? When I finish reading a romance story, I can usually go back in my mind and think about, how did the female character change as a result of her journey? Was she different at the beginning than she was at the end? And usually the answer is yes, and I can think about and see that progression in my mind. But then when I think about, how did the male character change? A lot of times he has a flat arc. He's like the same person at the beginning as he is at the end. We need to see that difference. We need to see how something actually changed emotionally on an internal level and make it feel earned. Otherwise, the romance feels like something is missing. This perfect performative man with a heart of gold isn't just unrealistic, it's also increasing dissatisfaction in real life, because men in romances are not showing up with real flaws and doing deep internal work to overcome those flaws. They're just already good. They're already perfect. And the subtext I get out of that, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but the subtext I get out of that is women have to change. Men are already worthy. Now, I know the big question that you all are thinking right now.
Abby, are you saying red flags are okay? Are you saying that we should write male characters with a bunch of behavioral problems and red flags that we should obviously run away from, but that's a good, healthy thing?
No. Let me explain. We all have vices and virtues, okay? We all have different things that we struggle with, and they show up in our lives in different ways. And sometimes those vices are not necessarily toxic. They are rooted in a false belief that shows up in our life in ways that creates obstacles and conflicts. But we put those obstacles and conflicts there. So maybe some of these flaws are deceit, fear, envy, greed, sloth, vanity, pride, anger. I know these all sound like horrible vices, but they can manifest in ways that are forgivable through internal transformation. So let's take a minute just to break down like the difference between a character flaw and a red flag, because there is a big difference there. And we definitely do not want to write romance books that encourage women to accept red flags or just look past them or settle for less than what they deserve. That is absolutely not what we want to be subtly reinforcing through romance. A character flaw is a starting point, something the story confronts, something that causes real consequences, and something the character must take responsibility for. A red flag pattern, on the other hand, is ongoing harmful behavior, defensiveness instead of accountability, no meaningful change over time, and expecting love to fix the problem. And this is why there is a big difference. We need to see the difference between character flaws and red flags. They are not the same thing. They can end up being the same thing if that character flaw is never resolved. But if it is resolved, that gives the most satisfying internal transformation that you could possibly want in a character arc. And remember, a flaw is only romantic if the story forces the character to reckon with it. And I think it's important to note, the male character must prove he has overcome or is actively overcoming this flaw before the female character commits to him. Because I think we can all agree that healthy romance is based on choosing someone after they've already proven and shown who they are becoming, not betting on who they might be or their potential. There's a difference between accepting someone and settling for them. And actually this works for real life relationships too. Acceptance looks like acknowledging someone's humanity, understanding their limits, choosing them with clear vision. And settling looks like ignoring unresolved behavior, accepting repeated harm, and shrinking your needs to preserve the relationship. And that leads us to our ultimate question: what would Jane Austen do? Let's take, for example, the classic we all know, Pride and Prejudice. We all know that at the beginning of the story, Mr. Darcy is very resentful, kind of stuck up, very pompous, very much an Enneagram 1.
My good opinion, once lost, is lost forever.
Because he is stuck in this pattern of like judging people and being critical. He is a flawed character, okay? He is a flawed fictional man who has actual problems show up in his behavior. And that behavior, that flaw, gets in his way. It actually causes trouble for the story and for himself. it actually like messes up his relationship with Elizabeth, because then when he realizes he loves Elizabeth and he goes to propose to her, she's like,
No way. No way. Have you looked in the mirror recently? Do you know how toxic you are?
Your arrogance and conceit, your selfish disdain for the feelings of others made me realize that you were the last man in the world I could ever be prevailed upon to marry.
we don't love Mr. Darcy because he was worthy of Elizabeth all along. We love him because he changed to be worthy of her. Important things to notice here. Elizabeth does not accept Mr. Darcy exactly as he is from the beginning. Darcy is not rewarded when he is still showing bad behavior. His first proposal attempt fails because he hasn't changed yet. And Elizabeth only chooses him after he proves that he has changed. Through his behavior, through his actions, through a new pattern of humility and compassion and forgiveness. And I love this example so much, and I will never shut up about it, because it shows how both characters have to change internally in order to make the romance feel earned and to come together and realize that they are actually the perfect match. They're actually perfect for each other, but they weren't perfect for each other at the beginning of the story because they hadn't changed yet. It's not just Elizabeth who had to go through conflict and be flawed and change. It was also Darcy. Okay, so how do we actually apply this to our writing? I've come up with 4 self-check questions that you can ask yourself to really determine whether your male love interest is an active, flawed character, or if he is just a performative, perfect book boyfriend. Question number 1. Does his behavior actually get him into trouble? And are there real consequences he must face? This is non-negotiable. This is probably the only question you even have to ask yourself, because at some point this character is going to get into trouble, right? Something's going to happen, some conflict is going to arise in the story. Is that trouble a direct consequence of his own behavior, his own flaws, tripping him up, creating obstacles, creating conflict? And does he have to reconcile with it? Like, does he have to face it? Does he have to take responsibility for it? Is it based off an actual mistake he made? And this one is especially helpful too if you have a male character whose flaw is related to his self-worth. Having a male character who has low self-esteem or an inferiority complex, or they're just struggling with like not feeling loved or not feeling worthy of love, that can be a great internal conflict. But does it actually show up in his behavior? Does it actually get him into trouble? Are there actual consequences that he later has to face in the story because he acted on this flaw? Question number 2, is his flaw something he must confront himself, not something love magically fixes for him? Does he change because he actually recognizes the harm that this flaw is causing in his own personal life? Or does he change just to get the girl? Even if the romance didn't work out, would he still need to grow? Would he still need to do this internal work? If love is doing the work for him, he's not growing. He's being rescued. Does his arc require humility, discomfort, or self-reckoning? In other words, does it cost him something internally? Because change is uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. And it should be uncomfortable for your male love interest as well. Does he have to admit he was wrong? And how does that feel? This is what's gonna make his growth feel earned and not performative. He's not doing it just to like get the girl and to be like, hey, look, I changed. He's actually changing on the inside. There's an actual transformation happening, and it's uncomfortable. It is difficult to go through. It is not fun, but that's what makes character change so compelling. And last question, by the end, has he demonstrated change through his actions, not just through vague promises that he's going to change? Is the relationship built on mutual trust and respect? And can we look back at the beginning of the story and see how he is so much different now than he was then? So those are my 4 go-to questions to really determine whether your male character is actually flawed, actually an active participant in his life and on a transformative character arc, or if he's just like one of these perfect performative book boyfriends who doesn't change from the beginning to the end because he's just a perfect saint. I don't think we really want that. I think we want to see characters who have to change, characters who are flawed and conflicted and have to overcome those flaws and conflicts and false beliefs in order to achieve real happiness, right? That's what story is about. That's what we talk about all the time on this channel. And I'm really pleasantly surprised to see this happening a lot more with female characters in romance, but that's the whole point of this rant, is that I would like to see that happen even more with male characters, because I feel like that is needed. Comment below this video and tell me, have you noticed this pattern in male characters? Has it annoyed you as much as it's annoyed me? Because I feel like nobody else talks about this, but it's something that has just been like on my mind a lot and bothering me, and I feel like we can do better. So comment below, join the discussion. I'd love to hear your take on this. And if you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because I would love to have you here in the community. And until next time, my friend, happy writing and rock on.